Are you confused whether you're supposed to be Dr. Selenar or Jerry? Aren't you supposed to be in character? Why do you have to know what a doctor would do? Why do you need to know what examination to give nurselings? Welcome to S&M D&D, where this week we talk about 3 ways to challenge your players and why you should do it. Now, the idea behind whether or not you are challenging a player or challenging a character can be clearly defined by one aspect: the rolling of dice. The rolling of dice means that we are challenging the character's innate ability to achieve something. Conversely, when a player says or does something utilizing their own knowledge, this is challenging a player. And truthfully, we utilize some combination of these two in every game. The variation in difficulty is set by what ratio of these two we utilize. Now you might be asking, what are the benefits of challenging the player comparative to their characters? At the core, you have to understand that Dungeons & Dragons, and really any role-playing game, is about one thing: overcoming challenges. Challenging players is another avenue to reach blissful experiences which create different challenges that your players can overcome and feel accomplished for. We want players to feel a sense of accomplishment. Another thing challenging the players does is it allows the decisions to be made from the player and improve the way we approach the game, seeing possible puzzle solutions we couldn't have imagined before. So in short, being challenged allows us to start to think differently and improve ourselves. Now, we already challenge players to some degree already. We utilize 3 major facets to challenge players: role-playing, tactics, and some traps and puzzles. But before we get into how you can start challenging players more, here's how you can help support this channel.
That's right, folks. This episode is brought to you by you. Those of you who have stopped by the Etsy page and decided that you needed some new toys in your life to make your experiences lustrous and fulfilling, you're the ones who have really helped support this channel, and we really appreciate it. If you're someone out there who is looking to help support the channel, one of the best ways you can go about doing that is by visiting our Etsy page and ordering some of the products that we have on there. And you can find these at etsy.com/shop/swordsandmagicd&D. Thank you.
Before we hop into the nitty-gritty, I want you to think about what fantasy novels you have read or maybe watched as a movie where the heroes don't have to solve a creative puzzle or trap. Look at movies like Lord of the Rings, Indiana Jones, or Harry Potter. It is important to challenge the person. Now, I don't recommend you jump from 0 to hero if you're not implementing anything already. I also don't recommend going to only challenging your players. This is because the skills we know personally might not be the characters we are playing. So you need to start slow and work your way up. Now, a critically important factor about this is to understand that the moment you start challenging players and not characters, there are going to be multiple options that you would have never thought about personally. So be flexible. It's important to be open to the idea that there might be more than one right answer to most scenarios when you're challenging your players. While there may be a trap or two that can only be solved in one specific way, the majority of the time you need to be open to other results. There are 3 major areas you can look at challenging players. This will not be an exhaustive list. There are other ways you can challenge players, and you should make sure to include them down in the comments below. Also remember that what challenges one person might not challenge another. New players haven't got the experiences that old players do, so doing something small might feel like a lot to them. I'm going to give you some examples of how to start to implement and start to challenge the players. I want to show you different levels of challenging your players related towards roleplay, tactics, and traps and puzzles. So starting off with roleplaying, it's easier to explain with a simple example. Your players are in a shop trying to get a discount on a piece of armor. Not challenging the players would just be asking for a persuasion roll, and depending on how that roll goes, you either give the discount or don't. Semi-challenging the players is asking them how their characters would go about convincing the shopkeeper, then having them make a roll, changing the difficulty check depending on how well they go about convincing them. Full challenging the players, you have a player roleplay convincing the shopkeeper with either no roll or the difficulty check being heavily favored more towards the roleplay and not the actual skill. This shows you how you can get different aspects of challenging your players. Tactics are probably the most common example of how most people challenge the players. This has to do with how difficult the encounter is. So think variations like strength of monster, the tactical abilities like how they position, combo abilities, how diversified the encounter is, and if there's any environmental difficulty. For example, not challenging the players. 4 goblins attacking head-on. Semi-challenging the players. 4 goblins, 2 archers, which are utilizing their nimble escape to reposition. Full full challenging the players. 3 goblins, 3 archers with hidden pit traps laid about. The 3 melee goblins stay hidden for when the players rush into the archers. All of the creatures utilize nimble escape, positioning themselves strategically around the pit traps. Lastly, traps and puzzles. Not challenging the players. Door is locked with a poison dart trap, roll a disable trap and disable lock. Semi-challenging the players. Mild riddles, puzzles, maybe room with terrain that moves or can hurt the players depending on what they can do. Hard challenging players. Look at Grimtooth traps and puzzles. Cry? Maybe don't ever go to that extreme. Now, of course, there are issues that can come up the more you start to challenge your players. These can include feeling helpless, giving up, or not feeling comfortable with their game. An important thing to remember is that this style of gameplay isn't for everyone. If you are a DM who wants to challenge your players, you really should talk with them beforehand about what this is going to look like and how it's going to be implemented. This might not be the right game for you or your players. Some people don't like to challenge players or want to be a player that is challenged. Well, you sexy motherfuckers, I hope this was an enlightening and helpful towards you and gives you some ideas of why and how you should start to challenge your players over their characters. If I missed anything, make sure to add it down in the comments below and let's help each other out. If you're not already subscribed, maybe think about slapping that subscribe button and turning on those notifications. And as always, I hope you have a nice fucking day.